now by Dionne Joyner-Weems, the author of the newly released book, That Part, What Some Know But Won't Tell You About Motherhood. Dionne is very well known here in Baltimore City. She's a natural born storyteller who hails from the west side of Baltimore. She and her husband Jason are proud Morgan State University graduates, and they're raising three dynamic sons. They said just a stone's throw away from Morgan State University. She's also a CEO mommy. How are you, Dionne? Dionne, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. How are you?
I am super fantastic. I love the way you shut that question down. No, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. Can you imagine liberal women convincing conservative women to stand up in support of reproductive rights? That's not going to happen.
And as always, this is why I enjoy getting to talk to the Dr. Kaye.
And I am excited talking to the author, Dionne Joyner-Weems. First of all, let's talk, before we even get into your book, let's talk about the book drop. Everybody was there, from Shalonda Stokes. I mean, everybody showed up. Can you talk a little bit about what it meant for you being able to stand in your hometown and introduce your book and be surrounded by your family and friends?
Wow, Dr. Kaye. To know that, honestly, it was so last minute, because just the idea of celebrating myself is something I'm not accustomed to. So to bring the people that were there with me, like this book chronicles 2010 to 2015, like Dionne stepped out. The Dionne that you know now, Dr. Kaye, came as a result of those 5 years. So to have those people in the room before the book dropped, because I needed people to be on guard, like, hey, I need context so you know that once this hits the street, where I'm coming from, I had my allies close. But it was also a thing of seeing my children there, because that's the point of this book, is that I thought for so long that I was an adult. And it wasn't until I had children that I understood what being an adult was. So to now be standing in front of my boys, who this book is dedicated to, and then listen to their mother. It's my son wrote down a little note. I love you, Mommy. I'm proud of you. And for me, that's all I want. I want my children to be able to see me. I want the world to be able to see me. But it's very difficult, and I'm sure listeners know, for you to wake up every morning and be yourself in the type of world that we're living in. So this book is a diary and a declaration, and it's so grounded in your tribe, your family, like what brought you here. So to have those folks standing eye to eye, and for me to say, I wouldn't be here without you, and have my mother, and honor my mother, my father, like that. I can't even put into words, but thank you for asking me that question. No one's asked me that.
Well, now I want to go through the book, and so I appreciate you sharing this with the world. I mean, because like you, I'm also a mother of sons, so that this was for me just a journey back into my own struggle. So I thank you for being honest enough and courageous enough to share the real story of what it takes to try, and I say try, to raise happy and healthy and whole, human boys in this society.
And that's the thing. So to know, I had 3 children in 2 years against the backdrop of the mass shooting at Sandy Hook, in which we're commemorating the 11th year, and what changes have we seen since then? You know what I mean? It was the tragic death of Trayvon Martin. I had the Charleston 9. I had Sandra Bland. I had engorged breast and postpartum depression. And I'm doing it was a mess. It was an absolute mess. And everyone tells you when you have children, they warn you, take your time, because they grow so fast. But they don't carry through the thought. In order to raise a child to be the best that they can possibly be, you have to be it first.
Right.
And a parent needs to take that time to self-reflect, let go of some learned behaviors. I had to let go of, make amends of some things. I got to meet 4-year-old Dionne, 12-year-old, high school, college, and they had a lot to say, Dr. Kaye. And I had to come to terms with them so that I could then be able to raise my boys to be the best that they could be. And that little voice everyone has it. Everyone has it, but this world is so freaking loud that y'all have forgot your source. And and it doesn't have to be, because I tell people, look, this book, late 20s, early 30s, maybe you're thinking about having children, maybe you know in the early stages of having children, but what I'm saying is that in everyone's life, you hit a point where you realize that you call out for something greater than yourself. You believe that there is something greater than yourself. And that's what sustains you in a world like this. And I'm hoping that the book just encourages people to get in touch with that.
Now, I want to go to just the first part of the book and break it up into pieces, because it is a diary and you have the dates. But the first one after the preface, What Do I Know, is the Delivery Fight Club. But what I want to look at is the date of that. Because that was done September 9th, 2011. Okay, so I just want to make a note, folks. What was happening in September 2011, 9/11, that we often talk about, that we kind of, in that moment, on this day, in that month, we are commemorating what happened in 2001. So it's 11 years after that, but it's still just the pain and sorrow of 9/11. And so you started writing with Delivery Fight Club, and you wrote, the first 6 or 7 entries are all in the fall of 2011.
Damn. Go ahead, Dr. K. See, this is why I love talking. It was a come to Jesus conversation. Here it is. I'm about to have my first child while we're still repeating 11 history, decades and decades of trauma and pain that I still have not seen resolved. And now I'm about to bring my 3 children into it. So I needed, it was a kickstart. I needed to be reminded of who I was and how powerful I needed to be, because, again, you don't have to have children. It's when an adult, to me, is when you're living for something beyond yourself. Like a life is dependent on yours. And that changes the game. That fear, that same hesitation that you used to have, the microaggressions, like you talk different, Dr. K. You stand different, don't you, when you know that your sons are watching you. And this is what I tell people, they know I'm the Chief Energy Officer of Audacity Group, right, which is a brand shop for bold ideas. And I tell people, until the lion learns to speak, every story will always glorify the hunter. Always glorify the hunter. In 2015, after now having 3 children in 2 years, and I'm looking at Baltimore and Freddie Gray, I'm like, oh, hell no. That's where Audacity was born. It was born because I had no choice. Right. I've got 3 children to protect.
No, I'm so glad you said that.
Getting like that.
No. But then I just want to move on to another one, because as I'm working through the book was very emotional for me. I want to go to an entry you have, December 19, 2012, and it's entitled Gun Control, Just Hear Me Out. And so, folks, we're talking about the fact that on this day, this is December 14th, go back to 2012. It's the day when the nation realized that people were sick enough to go into an elementary school and shoot the most vulnerable part of our population. So if you go from December 14th to December 19th, you now run into Dionne writing this piece, Gun Control, Just Hear Me Out. I want to have you talk about this, because what I think about when I think about either Sandy Hook, or I think about what happened to Columbine, or I think about Uvalde, is I think about the teachers who physically put their bodies in front of the children. And they, of course, the bodies were not heavy enough, dense enough, thick enough to protect the bullets from going through. But isn't that what we do as moms? We physically are ready to put our bodies in front of our children.
Without hesitation, though. It is not a second thought. And it killed me to now I have a 1-year-old son, and I'm seeing these first graders. And again, sick enough. AR, what was like an AR-15?
It's an AR-15. It's an AR-15.
I'm like, what the... What I'm trying to say is that I'm not trying to take anyone's, guns away from them. What I'm saying is that but the Constitution was written in, 1700?
Yeah.
Like, they were shooting
1776,
cannons. It was
muskets.
Like, a cannon is like a couple of pounds. You ain't just going to shoot that willy-nilly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So It's a big difference between what George Washington and them were fighting versus going into an elementary school, taking the lives of 20 children, 6 teachers, and then life. Like what? So again, it was this idea of, am I going to wait for the government? Am I going to wait for someone to come and save me? Am I going to wait for someone to come and protect my children, my community? And my children told me, no. That little voice told me that, Dionne, I gave you everything that you needed to do. Listen to me. And I've been doing that ever since. And I'm still here. So the Holy Spirit, it ignited in me when I had my children, and the world couldn't take it away. And I want everyone to feel that type of audacity.
I want to go to March 1st, 2013, Gross and Greedy, where you go through and you talk about how gross and greedy boys are. You have a whole story about your son and not putting on deodorant. And I just thought that was just a funny short story. And folks, when you read the book, you can read the book in one setting. I mean, it's a diary entry from just 2 pages, and you can get through the whole story. But you can actually put yourself in. If you just go through and you look at Dionne Joyner-Weems when she was on television, you can go put it up on YouTube, and you can hear her voice in these stories here. So can you talk about gross and greedy boys?
Okay, so gross and greedy. I have a younger brother. So what's funny is that people view me as an only child. I'm like, no, I was the oldest. My brother is 4 years younger than I. And it was because of my relationship with my brother that I'm like, Lord, if I'm going to have children, boys were pretty much, my sweet spot. But the thing about boys is, they are gross and greedy. And I remember, here it is, in the past, my brother was 10 years old, and he did not enjoy wearing the deodorant, and he enjoyed the fact that others did not enjoy the fact that he did not like wearing deodorant. He came into my room, and he started spinning, right, with his arms open, spinning, creating a whirlwind of funk. And he's like, yeah, it's my secret weapon. And I realized that, that's the joy with little boys. Like, they eat their boogies, and you're looking at them like, oh my, is this real life? But there's a purity there. So what I've realized is that grit, the gross part of having little boys that honestly they're just so free with their body and what they think and feel. As a mother, I have to say it's endearing. It's endearing to me.
8 reasons I haven't called you back. This is one that struck me. April 4th, 2013. Because I wanted to stop here for a second. Your birthday. This is your birthday piece. What struck me with this, and now I know it's written on your birthday, I see it a little bit different. One of the things that we struggle with as women is when we have children, we lose friends, particularly friends who don't have children, just for the things you laid out in, I'm sorry I haven't called you back. So can you go through the 8 reasons, because you start each up one of them with, sorry I haven't called you back, and then you go on to explain how life and mothering gets in the way.
That's right. So, starting off first, I know I haven't, texted you back. I responded, then you called me and I didn't answer. So it's a thing of, sometimes if you text me and I respond, there's no more need for a phone conversation. There's a reason that I text to you. I just finished washing my 3 boys, and let me tell you, when you have a routine, you got to go to work, you come home, you cook, you wash, you get your children fed, down. You literally have about 1 hour and 29 minutes to yourself before maybe the next feeding. So I'm like, I'm busy right now, and it just keeps going. Social media, you actually feel like if you like someone's post while you're sitting there nursing your child, now you've got a friend upset because, why aren't you talking to me? Well, it's a big difference between liking someone's comment and being able to engage in a 3-hour conversation. So it's this thing of, you're made to feel, you could be made to feel selfish for a first-time mother. I know that I came in face-to-face with me having to draw my lines. And it's a good thing, right? But it took me having children, it took me having to find my voice to be able to now stop trying to appease people. Come to find out, my appeasing started when I was 4 years old. It's actually a learned behavior. So that reflection of who Dionne was and why Dionne was that, and now looking at the present Dionne, and I can see myself in my children, I have one or two choices. I can either perpetuate, which I know not to be right, or I can take the time to heal, because your children ain't going to listen. They're looking. They're not listening. They're looking.
Right.
So I have to give them something worth looking at. So I want you to watch me work. The book is very honest. It's raw, and it's a little scary, because as far as black women, being vulnerable, to expose ourselves to the world that we live in now, it's dangerous. But I know that what I believe and who's carrying me is bigger than anything in this world. So,
I love that. I love it. Folks are chiming on Facebook Live. Antoine Copeland says, as a man and having a boy who is now a young man, these are some things we need to correct when they're young. Nothing's endearing about dirty and disgusting children. Now, I want to say, Dionne, before I have you respond, that we had a whole thing with the boys, right? It was, you come into the house, and I was big. Hands up. We are washing hands. This is long before COVID. Wash your hands before you come out. Take your dirty shoes off at the door. Take off your outside clothes, right? Wash your face. Put on your inside clothes. That's the whole big thing. That's that South Carolina and me, inside clothes versus outside clothes. And so we had a whole thing around cleanliness. Dionne, when I went and picked up my youngest kid from college one weekend and he got in the car, I was like, dude, you smell like bad choices and regret. Like, I don't know what you did this weekend, but it's coming out in your pores. So I don't think that the lessons we're teaching our children about being clean, I think it's a lifetime lesson. It's not something you learn one time, right?
It is. And let's keep this thing in context. I'm talking 2010 to 2015. I'm talking about infants, okay? These are children that are literally just starting. They don't even know what snot is.
Yes.
It's just this thing
that
comes from their nose, and when they breathe really hard, a bubble shows up, and that bubble is really fascinating to them. And then they lick it, and it's like, are you kidding me? But children are exploring. So you're going to keep in mind, I'm the wife of a stand-up comedian, right? Comedy is in our
family
DNA.
line now.
Yeah. So my thing is, if you can't laugh at it, don't worry about reading it. Okay, it's no stress at all. But this is about raw honesty. It's funny, and these are, to be honest, like you said, it's my personal diary. And what I know is that no one can deny my truth. This is what happened to me.
Right. Oh, I love that. I love that.
No one can say that. I wish they could.
But this is your story. This is your story and your truth.
Yeah.
Then I want to end with what I found to be the hardest story to read in your book. And that's what I want to end with. August 5th, 2015. Feeling Some Kind of Way. Where you go through and you talk about Trayvon, you talk about Eric Garner, you talk about Walter Scott, you talk about these children who were taken away from their mother. But there is something you say on page 112. When you talk about June 17, 2015, taking your boys to South Carolina for the first time to visit with their great-grandparents. I'm from South Carolina, Dionne, and I remember taking my sons down there after those 9 beautiful people were shot and killed at the prayer service down in Charleston, South Carolina, the Emmanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church. That was hard. And reading this took me back. So can you talk a little bit about what does it mean to be a mother during the time of Black Lives Matter?
It was one of those, I heard that phrase where you have to stop pointing the finger and pull the thumb. So it was one of those moments where with Black Lives Matter, I realized that I had to say it, I had to own it, that this was obviously something that others did not understand. And now because I had 3 boys that I knew that, hey, when you see my 3 sons interacting with each other, let's just say, they're pushing each other around, and, they're having fun, and to know that someone is looking at them as a threat when they mean them no harm, and to have no hesitation in taking their life, and to know that you will get away with it. When you go through, like here it is, the pain, and there's a pain of giving birth. But I cannot imagine the pain of losing my child. And I had these little babies. I'm talking about 3-year-olds. And they're looking me in my eyes, and their only protection is their mommy and daddy. And I'm living in a world where I have, my oldest son told me once when he saw one of the Black Lives Matters in someone's window. And he told me that he actually felt strange. I'm like, why do you feel strange? And he's like, the fact that you have to say that.
Yes.
I'm walking through a place and I see a sign that says, "Hey, guy, you matter." What?
Yeah.
What? So here it is to now, for the first time, I've given birth to something precious into a world that looks at it like trash. So that inner voice, being reintroduced to who I was, how I got there, and now looking at the responsibility that God gave me with these three lives, then I made it my purpose. Like I said, Audacity was born in 2015 because I knew I have to own this narrative. I cannot allow the world to dictate to me or others any longer what it perceives us to be.
I love this.
I'm a storyteller. I'm going to tell you.
There you go. Folks, I urge you to pick up that part, What Some Know But Won't Tell You About Motherhood by Dionne Joyner-Weems. I'm going to put in the words of her husband. He writes on the back of the book, you read a copy and you laugh, cry, and buy 3 more copies. Go on to Amazon and get 3 more copies for your loved ones. It's an incredible book. Dionne Joyner-Weems, thank you for the gift of your words.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Bye-bye.
All right.